Greetings, everybody. I am Rob Corley, and welcome to the Rob Corley Show. Actually, it's more like a skeleton version of the Rob Corley Show because it's not all the lights, the glitz, and the glamour of the regular episodes of the Rob Corley Show with the intro and the music and everything else. But you do get the same old boring Rob Corley that you've known for the past 5.5 years now. And since we don't have the logo intro up, I gotta show you this on this clipboard just to show you that it is the Rob Corley Show. And obviously this camera is reversed, so you're only seeing it in reverse. But that is that's our 5-year Rob Corley Show logo. And because this is not a regular episode of the Rob Corley Show, we have cut some things back, but we're still going to have a show, and I'm going to talk about some things. Now, what are some of the things I'm going to talk about? Well, I just want to point out that we've had to cut some things back simply because we've been dealing with this virus that's been around for like the first time in forever. Yeah, moving on. I got some topics here. Got some topics on this card, and I got this red pen that I'm gonna mark them off as I go. First thing I'll talk about: American Idol. American Idol. It's been going on for 20 years now. It's the American version of what started out as Pop Idol, and that was a singing competition that started in the UK. And I think that ran for a few years. And when American Idol started, I think they only went on one more year after American Idol started. And then when American Idol started, that whole singing competition just blew up as a concept. And then people started making their own versions of it all over the world. It's in many different countries now. They have their own versions of this competition with their own country and idol attached to it. But American Idol started in 2002 with judges Simon Cowell, Paula Abdul, and Randy Jackson. And Ryan Seacrest has always been the host ever since the very beginning. There was another guy with him on the first season, but I can't remember his name right now. He was there, so it was kind of like a tag team type of hosting thing. And then as the seasons went on, they just had Ryan do it by himself. There have been various judges through the years that have been on the show. Kara, I can't remember her last name, but she was on there for a while. Steven Tyler from Aerosmith was there at one point. Harry Connick Jr., famous musician, sometimes actor. And Jennifer Lopez, singer, actress, entrepreneur, whatever you want to call her. And now the current lineup we have, when American Idol made the switch from Fox to ABC, they got 3 new judges, and they go by the names of Katy Perry, who you may know is a famous pop artist, entertainer. Well, they're all entertainers, but you know. Lionel Richie, singer, performer, dancer, and Luke Bryan. Yeah, Luke Bryan, country singer, performer, restaurant owner, everything. Okay, so this competition has been around for 20 years, and people have poured their hearts out to try and get a shot at being the next big pop star or something like that. And in the beginning, you know, they would have, I feel like they would just let anybody come on there because all the people that they would have on the air for the audition process, most of those people who went through those auditions could not sing very well. And I think they did that for ratings to get more people to watch it just to see how bad people were. And I'm not saying any of these people were bad, but it just showed on the screen. And, you know, Simon, he could be very brutal. Because I'd probably never say a lot of the things that Simon has said to people about how good or how bad they were. But, you know, I mean, being honest, it's a good thing. You don't want to be lied to about whether you can sing or not. Whether you can sing or not. American Idol has been around for since 2002, 20 years. Okay. Next up, Aladdin. Now, well, let's go back to this American Idol thing for a second, because some of the most famous people have come out of this singing competition. They all didn't win, but they became very popular from this competition, including Jennifer Hudson, who was recently in that movie Respect, giving tribute to Aretha Franklin. Jordan Sparks, who simply blew away her audition. Fantasia, who was a winner, won. Carrie Underwood. Ruben, I can't remember his last name, but Ruben was there. And now obviously you can't forget about the very first American Idol winner, Miss Kelly Clarkson, who basically blew everybody away with her audition. Nothing bad to say about any of these guys. I'm a fan of all of them. Okay, now we're moving on to Aladdin, the Disney movie that's been around. It's celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. Came out in 1992. I believe it came out in the summer of 1992. The movie about the boy who stole stuff just to get by, just so he could have something to eat. He had a pet, I believe it was it a monkey? Or a baboon, I don't know. And then there was this genie, you know, this magical genie that could grant him 3 wishes. And, but he had to be very careful because the things he wished for weren't always what they seemed. And you had to be very specific about what you wanted, or else there would be some trouble. Which there was some trouble with this mean old guy named Jafar. And he wanted the crown, and he wanted the girl, and he wanted everything that Aladdin thought that he wanted. And he got it by the way of the wish, but he got it because he was pretending to be someone else instead of himself. And that's really what ended him up in trouble and almost getting trapped down in Sandland for all time. But he had courage, and he got out of that situation and eventually did get Jasmine, the girl that he wanted. And Jafar just ended up being, locked away for almost all eternity. Okay. Great songs come out of that movie. Like, one jump ahead of the bread line, one swing ahead of the sword. I steal only what I can afford. And that's everything. Like that one. You ain't never had a friend like me. That's another one. That's the song that the genie sings. Ain't never had a friend, never had a friend. Ain't never had Okay. Now, if you tell me, folks, if you remember this. You have to zoom, zoom, zoom. You gotta zoom, zoom. And you remember that? Okay. Well, the TV show Zoom that was on PBS. No, not the app that everybody knows about now, which is very helpful in some cases. Helps us communicate when we can't be together. Um, the original version of that is celebrating 50 years. The first version of this show came out in the year 1972. This is 2022, so it's 50 years later. Celebrating the show by kids for kids that showcased kids just being kids and doing kid activities that other kids would send in for them to do. Which I thought was really a fun concept, because you had most of this show, of course there were adults behind the scenes, but you never saw them or really knew about them. Everything was done by the kids. And I think it's really the only kids show that you never saw any adults at all. They had these giant letters and platforms that the kids would play games on and talk about. But they had like this big black background, especially for like the revival version that came out in 1999. That's the one that I grew up with. So I mean, I like it. But in the earlier days, in the 70s, the sets, they weren't so dark. At least not the background. Anyway. They had zingers, they had Zoom games, Zoom doos, Zoom side, that was in the revival. Zoom raps / chats. Now that's just when the Zoomers get together and talk about topics that are going around in the world, like current events sometimes, how they feel about things, just honest discussion, which I think is great. Because it shows you how kids really feel about certain things that you didn't know that they felt a certain way about. It gives you a whole different perspective of a child's mind. Children are very bright, and we should definitely respect them more and listen to them more, because they can teach us a lot. Have any of you ever seen the show called That's So Raven? You know, the one starring Raven Simone? Well, in 2016, or was that 2017? Yeah, 2017, she came back to Disney Channel with a new show called Raven's Home, which is basically a continuation of where, well, it's years later after where That's So Raven left off. Now Raven Baxter has kids. Her friend Chelsea is there with her kids, and they live together in this apartment in Chicago. And they're both, it's kind of ironic that both of these characters, both Chelsea and Raven, they both have kids. They were both married, and then both of their characters got a divorce. And a divorce is when two people who are married legally separate. So they don't live with each other anymore. And they don't have each other's names. Or the wife doesn't have the husband's name and the thing. And then you have to deal with custody battles and all this type of stuff. So I've never dealt with that because I don't have any children. So and I'm not married, so yeah, I don't know what that's like. But anyway, recently Raven's Home has come back with a new season, and this season they are back in San Francisco. San Fran, where the show started. That's So Raven. That's where it was And now her son Booker, who by the way has inherited the vision seeing abilities that his mother Raven has, and it kind of gets him in similar trouble that Raven did, but probably not as big. But now that we are back in San Fran, we're probably going to see a lot of the antics, a lot of the shenanigans, a lot of the old friends, the old enemies that Raven had. Everything I heard that one of her old bullies, one of her nemesis, Raven Baxter, is at the school that Booker goes to. And then I also heard that the school that Booker is going to is also the old school that Raven used to go to. And I believe the name of that school is Bayside High. Now, it's in San Francisco, but it's called Bayside. Now, wasn't there a school in another show called Saved by the Bell that was also named Bayside High? And it was also in San Francisco? I mean, isn't that ironic to you? Two of these shows, they have great cast. They're maybe 20, 30 some years apart. Got people going to the same school, but the shows have no relation to each other at all. That's possible in the TV world, isn't it? Yeah, I think so. Okay. And then I think we're going to see a whole lot more of Raven doing this thing with her eye, that she gets this blank stare when she just goes into the world and she sees things that she thinks is going to happen. It happens, but not exactly the way she thought it was going to happen. And then when she doesn't fully get the picture on what is actually happening, she just sees these glimpses, these glitches and stuff. So she has to go. Now she's trying to figure out how to stop certain things from happening or get certain things to happen, and in her vision it doesn't show her everything, so that when she does everything, when she does what she thinks she has to do, she ends up getting in more trouble because she did what she thought she had to do, and then she finds out that it's not what she actually had to do, and then everybody's wondering, Raven, what are you doing? And then Raven goes, oh snap. The snap of her fingers, and she just has to try and find ways to fix it. But then she usually does, and everything's usually all good in the end, and then everything's all right, and people getting together and hugging and kissing and everything and all that stuff, just patting each other on the back and just go on with your day. Raven's Home. It's on Disney Channel. It's been on for almost as long as this show's been on, which I'm still surprised that this show's been on this long. Anyway, it really shouldn't be, but it is. Anyway, we're moving on. Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. Proud Family is back after, I guess, about 15 years off of the air. It's new episodes, and the show is called, it has a subtitle, it's called Louder and Prouder. I guess to emphasize that the Prouds are back and they're louder and prouder than they were before. Which I don't really understand that title, because they were just as loud and proud as they were in the first show. But I guess the louder and prouder is to, like I was saying before, just to emphasize that it's back. And that it's a new series. And it's the old series, but it's just tweaked a little bit. But now the characters, they have iPhones. They didn't have iPhones in the first series because they didn't exist back then. They still had the cellular phones, and then the home phones that you pick up, and the big bulky ones that you dial, and you hold it up to your ear. Then you just put it on the table. No. And And some of these characters now with this new technology, they have the ability to become influencers. They can take pictures of themselves and send it to their friends and send it to the school and influence everybody in the world. And everybody can like it and share it and comment on it. And it makes you think one certain way about somebody that really isn't, because you don't really know them. You're just seeing what you see. Does that sound like anything in our world that we use? Oh yeah, Instagram. the bird, the tweeter, the Twitter. Yeah. Heavily influences. The faces on the books. That's what we got. That's what we got. And then the last thing I want to say about that is I saw an episode that had the intallently incredible. I know I just made up that word, intallently. No, the talentedly. That's what I meant to say, because I don't want to try to push the in, because in means you're not. And Lizzo actually is. But Lizzo, oh, I don't even need the introduction now, because I just said it. The incredibly talented Lizzo was on an episode, and she was performing at a park that Oscar proud Penny's father, that has those snacks that don't taste any good, but he still wants to push it and sell it to the people. Somehow, he got Lizzo to perform at this park that pushed Penny's group, her little group that she had with her friends back in the day. Well, now, they were going to perform there, but they got pushed out, and Lizzo replaced them. But Lizzo was very nice to Penny, because Penny was very insecure about her singing voice changing. And Lizzo says to Penny that you need to be proud of who you are and just be yourself. And that's really all anybody can ask anybody to do. We shouldn't be afraid to be who we really are. We shouldn't be afraid to express our opinions about things. Sure, we'll disagree on some things sometimes because we're human. Obviously, we're different. We're all unique. We're not going to agree on everything. We never have, and we never will, no matter how hard we try. But we do have to be respectful of people's opinions, and we do have to be respectful of each other. And that is the point that I took from all of that. And then Lizzo sings a song in that episode that I really enjoyed. Although I can't remember if she played the flute or not. I think she did, which Lizzo is a very good flutist. And a good dancer, yes. And she dresses very well. Okay, now that I've talked about everything I needed to talk about, I can mark off everything on this list. Okay, now where is it? Where is it on this card? American Idol, I talked about that. Check. Aladdin, 30-year anniversary, 1992-2022, 30 years. Talked about that. Zoom, the giant letters and the 50th anniversary, we talked about that. With the zoom, 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 a zoom. And then it's Raven's home, we talked about that. Moving back to San Fran, we talked about that. Getting into shenanigans, talked about that. And then Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. And Lizzo, we talked about that. Okay. One more thing. Be proud of who you are. And just be yourself. And that's all anybody can ever ask out of anybody. Okay? Alright. Now that's it for this episode. I've really enjoyed being with all of you as I do for all of the episodes. And even though this was a skeleton version of the Rob Corley Show, I think we still had a great show. Great topic discussions and everything else. And I can't wait. I look forward to seeing all of you in the next episode. And until then, I am Rob Corley. And I'm saying goodbye to all of you.